Hey, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we are talking with Brian and Rebecca from the Commotions. How are you guys doing?
Great, and thanks for having us, Tom.
Pretty good.
Ah,
So my first question is, how did the band even get together? How did this all start?
it started about 10 years ago. Um, so I was associated with a band called the Funk Brothers from Detroit
Mhm.
for a couple of years. So every time they came to Canada, they asked me to play saxophone, which was a huge honor. So the Funk Brothers, they were the backup band for most artists on the Motown label. And then I got to play with them for like 6 years. So every single time I got off the road, I was like, I've always written pop
I'm
music.
sorry. I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry. There's dogs barking? Is it?
Not here. I
I
can't
can't
hear
hear anything.
anything.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Now we have to start over because I couldn't hear you anymore. I could only. I think I'm gonna go outside.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay.
that's all right. I can chop things up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That is a cool venue.
it is amazing.
Yeah.
I think I can go
I
up
bet the
this.
acoustics, the
Mm,
acoustics would be
Hmm.
I'm gonna go up
unbelievable in that
before.
church.
It is awesome.
Yeah. I feel like we're watching like a Blair Witch Project kind of movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
New Age one where everyone's watching on Zoom and
Yeah, that's right, eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now her signal might have frozen.
Oh, okay.
Brian, you were talking, and it was all dogs here, and I was like, oh my God, I'm ruining everything.
Oh, that's okay. That your
I couldn't
video
actually
cut.
hear
Yeah, you're
anything,
fine.
so
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything either.
And it was probably totally fine. And then I just overreacted. Alrighty, here we go. This
Oh, that's
this is
cool.
gonna work right
That's gonna work
here.
fine.
Okay,
there we go.
Yeah.
there we go. I'm sorry.
Not a
I've
problem. It's
teleported to the outside now.
Yeah, we'll
Sure.
have a nice little cut just in between.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so we were talking about the Funk Brothers and kind of how things popped up. I can cut in the middle and we can kind of keep going with it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I was invited to play saxophone for them on their Canadian tours. And I struck a very strong relationship with their lead singer, Delbert Nelson. And so when I coming back from those tours, I've always written pop music. So I was like, I mean, I love Motown. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna try this. I mean, me being a horn player, I'm always a sucker for bands with horns. Like
Hmm.
they're immediately my favorite band already. So Motown has such a strong presence for horn sections and strings, and I love it. So I started writing this Motown music, and um, and then with the help with Rebecca and Delbert, so we brought Delbert to Canada. We formed the Commotions, and then we did the first record with Delbert, and then we're so lucky for Volume Two and the Volume Three record that's coming out in October to have again Rebecca really leading the pack with Jeff Rogers and Mackenzie DeMillo on vocals. So three vocals, outstanding vocalists, and we've just really taken it very seriously since our Volume Two release. Yeah, so we're just kind of hitting the road and running with it.
No, and it's fun and like I was telling Brian earlier, I've actually caught you guys live at Blues Fest, so I'm fully immersed in the sound of the Commotions and how everything is, and it was a fun experience for me because I'm a Motown fan also, and I love that
Yeah,
feel that's in the music a little bit that way.
yeah, absolutely.
So you guys have a new single, I believe, coming out is what I was having my notes. Feel the Commotion, if I'm not mistaken.
It came out the late August,
Late August. Okay.
and it
How did
features
that one kind of come
Rebecca.
together?
Rebecca, you want to take this one?
Ooh, that's a. I don't. How it came together is a tricky question. I feel like Brian, you were there for most of how it came together. I was there for most of how it was sung, and so like backing vocals and vocal world. But Brian, you kind of pioneered that
I guess
song.
so. Yeah. So Alex and I wrote the tune with Rebecca, and so there's three writers on the track, and and we Alex and I worked on the demo, And that's kind of actually the way Volume 3 kind of worked out, with some of the tracks. I wrote a bunch with Jeff Rogers and our producer, Alex Mastinardi, and Rebecca, and some other co-writers in the band as well. But Alex and I would work on a demo, and then we'd bring the singer in, and then they would make it that much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
So
I can sort of explain the process a little bit. Like,
yeah,
a lot of the time it's Brian and Alex will have an idea, and they'll be like the spark, and they'll try and like fill in as many blanks as possible, and then once it's sort of like a cohesive concept, then either myself or Jeff or Mackenzie will come in and um start singing it. And usually as soon as I start singing a song, I can usually tell if there are words like, phonetics that just aren't working for like the note. If I want to be belting a note, I want it to be like an open word. And so I might not be able to belt like puzzle, but I
Yeah.
could probably belt sky, So
yeah,
so then we'll start massaging the lyrics to
yeah,
to fit it in and make it feel a bit more fluid.
Okay, it's nice that you guys can kind of really mesh well that way and make everything fluid that way.
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Is there any times where there might be hard points trying to have so many creative minds working on one thing and make it come together really well?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, I mean, especially Alex and I, we always come to the table with the singers and we say, listen, this is what we thought, but you change whatever you think needs to change. Because we want the singers to be the most comfortable singing the songs and
Hmm.
singing the lyrics. So if it's something they might not want to sing, maybe it's content, or maybe it's a rhyme, or maybe it's something phonetic, then they have full reign to change anything, because we want them to, and we know, Alex and I know, that getting the best out of the singers, they have to be the most comfortable with the material.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta
Yeah,
gotta sound good. If it
absolutely,
feels forced, then it's not gonna be the same, I guess.
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah.
Now, how do you think your music has evolved over? Well, now you're on volume 3, you said. How do you think your music has evolved going further into working together as the band?
Well, I'm gonna get Rebecca to talk about lyrically in like the style of the band, but
Yeah.
I could talk about the arranging quickly. So, and the co-writing. So volume one, um, was some co-writes, um, but I took on most of it. Volume two, uh, we're definitely collaborating with Rebecca. I was, and David Gaw, for that record. And then this record, we've really opened up the floodgates. So we even have writers that aren't even in the band. And I think
Okay.
that was really important to me, just because, just more minds the better.
Hmm.
And on the ranging side, I brought in some arrangers that I absolutely adore. So me being a saxophone player and I do the arranging for the band, I wanted to change things up because I wanted volume three. I got arranging. I'm talking about how the band sounds. So minus the top line vocals and um, more the horn section and the strings, and
Okay.
how the band plays. And so I brought in a bunch of arrangers that I look up to. So Dave Eskridge works with Tower of Power as one of my favorite bands.
Hmm.
And so I just called him and I said, hey, listen, i'm I'm a saxophone player from Ottawa. I got this band. Would you do an arrangement for us? And he listened to our stuff, and he says, absolutely, let's do this.
Okay.
And so I took that as like a lesson. So, I mean, all these guys, they're guns for hire, really, at the end of the
Hmm.
day. So I took it upon myself to just, I always go big or go home. So I'm like, who do I want to arrange for the band? So I got Dave Eskridge, who works with Tower of Power. And then I got Philip Lassiter, who arranged for Prince.
Okay.
And then I got Michael B. Nelson, who did a lot of arranging for Prince, but he is also Corey Wong's arranger.
Oh,
So
okay.
those guys I look up to so much, and I analyze their songs, and I just try to figure out what's going on, like the horn section, like where the voicings are. So voicings just means like we have five horns, so every horn is going to play a different note,
Yeah.
you know, and it matters, the spread between each note, and that makes a big difference, like the distance between each note,
Okay.
and what note they're hitting. And so I would just analyze it, and then I would make my own arrangements better, after doing that. So volume three was honestly a music lesson for me in a way. on the arranging side because I've opened up the floodgates and had so much in there. I mean, I still take lessons to this day on
Hmm.
saxophone and arranging. And to me, Volume 3 was just a very worthwhile experience for me because I learned so much about me as an arranger, and I've learned to incorporate new ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a good experience too. That way you
Hmm.
can learn more, like you said, and keep growing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and having the strings too was a huge difference.
Hmm.
Uh, we had them on the Volume 2, and Mark Ferguson did them. So Volume 3, I asked Mark to arrange them all. Do the arranging again, and he's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but maybe Rebecca could talk about just the style of the band and then lyrically, or
Yeah, that'd be nice to hear.
yeah.
So the style of the band, as you know, is well, I guess it's kind of it evolves. It evolves from album to album. I think when we first started, we were all very inspired by that Motown sound. Um, but trying not to sort of get ourselves stuck in a certain point in time. We still wanted to sort of evolve with the, with the way music has, like, popular music has evolved over the last couple of years, and kind of dabbling in production techniques from different eras, not just the 60s, but like there was that really like stanky 70s guitar on what our last album. What song was that, Brian? That was so good.
Right kind of
The
wicked.
Right Kind of Wicked.
Yeah.
Um,
The Isley Brothers down.
right.
Okay.
So like
Yeah.
Isley Brothers vibes, and then
Yeah.
on this album, there was like a lot of 90s production ideas going on.
Okay.
So it's like I don't know. It it evolves with the times, and we're trying not to get stuck in one moment in time. But I would say if I was gonna like give it a genre title, I would say maybe the vocals are sort of rooted in R&B jazz, and um the rhythm section's also pretty jazz, probably jazz based, and then the horns are very Motowny.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it makes a good sound. You get like a.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with the fullness and just how everything like the arrangements and things like that. How it all
Mm.
came together when I first heard you guys.
Hmm. Yeah, we try to get that wall of sound approach.
Hmm.
Yeah. That what best I think best describes is the genre of soul pop. So you're
Okay.
taking soul music and Motown jazz and you're mixing it with pop. Some bands in the States that I look up to, like Lawrence is a really great band in the States that I really look up to, or Couch.
Hmm.
There's so much happening in terms of what they that I don't
And
know
you
if it's
guys
in
are writing some
genres, but
stuff now that's almost kind of in the Silk Sonic world, like,
yeah.
or the Bruno Mars, I guess, that very current. And I guess that's what you mean when you say pop, because
Mhm.
pop is different depending on where you are in
Very
time.
true.
Hmm.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
No, that'd be interesting to hear some of that. I can picture how some of that would come together just knowing the sound that you guys have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you guys do outside of music to keep grounded? There's always so much going on, and like you and I were discussing earlier, Brian, there's always schedules and
Yeah.
everything that's kind of all over the place. So, got to be something that keeps you guys a little level-headed and take a breath from the music side of things.
Ooh, that's tricky. I mean, I think there's music in my everyday, and even when I'm not trying to do music, I'm still doing music because I'm thinking about it.
Hmm.
Or I'm mowing the lawn, but I'm still humming a tune in my head.
Mm.
Um, I like to camp. I
Okay.
like to hang out with animals. I like to walk dogs. I
Yeah.
like to pet
It's
cats.
nice that way,
Yeah.
just getting getting something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like those are kind of the things I do to zone out, and just hanging out with family, making cocktails, cooking good meals.
Hmm. And what about you, Brian?
So I work full time as a college professor at Algonquin College in the
Okay.
music industry arts program. So when I'm not doing commotion stuff, I'm usually doing lectures and marking theory papers, and which still is on the music side. But what I probably look forward to most is I got two young kids and my wife, and so we spend a lot of time together. And I also am an avid runner. I love
Okay.
try to get a good decent run in every day, and it's still music only because I'm listening to music, but it's a really great way for me to just kind of clear my head
Mm.
and not
But
not
it's you're listening to music, but you're not working on music. You're
exactly.
absorbing it more so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, a fun question I always love to ask everybody,
Okay.
and this is my
Yeah.
favorite I ever ask, is what do you think should be asked more in an interview scenario that's not asked enough?
Hmm.
I think a question that helps you get to know people is well, there's a couple. I like what season are you?
Okay.
I like what time of day are you?
Okay.
Or what fabric? What textile? Are you velvety? Are you silky? Are you are you PVC? What's your
PVC.
I don't think I've ever thought about that actually.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
I used to teach I used to teach a class full of a lot of artists that were sort of beginning their careers. And one of the things I really like to try and hone in on was their artistic identity. Like, how do you want to be perceived? How do you want to
Mm.
be seen? You know, what do you want to project about yourself? And sort of
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
helping people try to identify. And I had this questionnaire that I used to pass around. And it was just fill in the blanks. And it was like, what season are you? What temperature are you? What time of day? What flavor, sweet, salty, savory, like, and it just kind of went through all of these other senses that
Mm.
weren't actually like music related.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Just
Um,
I'm taking notes here as I do this for fun points later.
yeah, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm more on the pop culture side, as you can see from the posters behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be like, you know, what's your favorite? You know, what kind of movie? Like, if you had to choose one movie, what would it be? Right?
Okay.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's a good one.
yeah, because I heard one recently, and it was an interview, and the gentleman who directed the really famous Batman movies with
Oh,
Christian
Christopher
Bale.
Nolan or
Yeah,
whatever it
Christopher
was.
Nolan. He got
Yeah.
asked that question, and his answer blew me away. It was because the question was, and don't quote me, but the question was, um, what is the one movie that if you're channel surfing, you drop the remote, and no matter what it is, you got to watch the movie? And his answer was Talladega Nights
Really?
with like Will Ferrell, and
Yeah.
they're like, I mean, I love that movie, but they're like, really? And Chris Nolan's response is like, if you're not first, you're last. That was his response.
I mean,
Famous
yeah.
quote from the movie. So I always go pop culture. So what kind of movie do you like the best, or what's your favorite movie, or like what is that one movie if you're channel surfing, you got to just drop the remote and watch it.
No, that's a good one. I'm a pop
Yeah,
culture guy too. Like if you could see the rest of my office, I've got autograph stuff up here.
nice.
I've got a whole. I had to cut my office in half because of having the baby. I needed to make her a room.
Hmm.
So I have a whole storage cabinet full of, pictures and posters and all kinds of fun stuff. And
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things too.
yeah, nice.
So another question I always like to ask is what's something on your go-to playlists that people wouldn't expect you're listening to?
Oh man,
I call this the guilty pleasure song because you
yeah,
you
guilty
might
pleasure,
not necessarily
exactly.
have this out there in public for people to know.
Uh, I love putting on Lorena McKennitt,
Okay.
especially when the weather turns cold.
Hmm.
It's like a thing my parents used to do when the weather would start to turn cold and the food would start to become more like hearty, like comfort food, chili and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And that was always the dinner music that my parents would put on would be like Lorena
Okay.
McKennitt and just all of
Yeah.
those sounds. I love her production. And so for me, that just like feels like home anytime I want to feel grounded or just,
That's a
settle
nice
back
one.
into my
Yeah.
roots, I'll put on Lorena McKennitt.
Yeah,
That's a nice
that's
one.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I always gravitate towards. I think I listen to Chicago every day or
Okay.
Tower Power every day, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like something that nobody would expect. Um, I'm a huge fan of Andy Grammer.
Oh, okay.
I've been listening to him since "You Got to Keep Your Head Up." That tune he wrote like
Mm-hmm.
eons ago. Huge fan of his. I listen to a lot of pop music. Ed
Yeah.
Sheeran, But yeah, probably Andy Grammer, or actually, one of my favorite artists is Michael Bublé.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, people might be able to guess that from me though.
I would have guessed that, Brian.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But still, that's definitely a very, very good name to have on your list for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So time is a little short here because Zoom was going to kick us off shortly, but I definitely want to potentially have another conversation with you guys. And since I'm based in Ottawa, maybe one day we can actually have a face-to-face and do a nice big interview with everyone.
Let's do that.
Oh, yeah.
But final question I want to make sure that everyone hears is, what motivates you guys to keep going down this musical road?
Every day I try to be 1% better.
Okay.
As an arranger, a saxophonist, anything, everything. So it's always something to strive for. So I may not see a difference in a day or 2 days or a week or even in a month, but in a year, it's a huge difference, right? So every day, no matter what I do, like being a father, whatever, being a listener, being a teacher, educator, like whatever it is, I always just try to be 1% better because that's manageable. Like I'm not taking too much off, I'm not biting off too much. And it's actually something I got from a book written by James Clear called Atomic Habits. And it's just be 1% better every single day. So that is inspirational for me because I know how much I still have to learn. And it's a big list. But if I just tackle it 1% at a time, it's doable.
The dog just burst in here now.
That's okay. Hello, puppy.
Oh, he can't hear anything either. He's just being,
right. You got the phones on.
Well, he's deaf too. He's an old boy.
Oh, okay.
So he's just being difficult and pushing me around.
I want to pet him.
I know, me too.
The other one's upstairs in the cage for being a bit of a bad dog right now.
Oh no.
And I could hear the baby out here too. So before we sign off, how about you, Rebecca? What's motivates you to keep going?
I mean, like, I do things that make me happy, and music makes me happy, and yeah, I don't know. I'm it's not hard. It's not hard to motivate me to keep going because it just feels good, it feels right. When there's not a lot going on in my life, I think that's when I sort of get a little bit down and I start, trying to like get the ball rolling again because I'm happy when I'm busy and I'm happy when I'm singing, and I like that. I like the pace of that lifestyle.
And if it wasn't, making you happy, why would you be doing it?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I think if I wake up one day and I'm like, nah, I think no problem. I'll just switch to something else.
Yeah.
Find the thing that makes me happy.
That's a pretty good way to think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time, like I said, so we'll sign off, but I definitely would love to connect with you guys again and actually sit down and we'll delve deeper into some more fun things. And I've got a whole other list of questions I could always add for a second interview for sure.
Let's do this.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'll let you go and you guys can enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.